I remember with your social media post that you were at that time working out, or you were losing weight for the part. And you had,
Right.
I think I remember on your social media post, you had like 30 days to lose like 30 pounds or something like that, if I remember correctly. And then you
It
got
was
down to
it,
like 165 or something like that. I was like,
it
holy
wasn't
shit.
long at all, man. Like the thing is I was going through the script and I've been wanting to audition for Will, gosh, ever since I saw The Prodigy, right? Did you ever see The Prodigy?
I have not. I've been looking for that movie on Amazon, Vudu. I couldn't find it, so I have no idea where I can look for that film.
Right. Hopefully one day he will re-release it again. But I was at a horror convention. I think it was Texas Frightmare Weekend or something.
Mhm.
And I think I was there to promote a movie that I was acting in or producing or something. And they had model girls walking around and they just handed it to me and I stuck it in my bag, went home, stuck it on the DVD shelf. And this guy, one of my friends, was over. And I normally don't even loan my DVDs out to anybody because back then I was like, yeah, right. You'll never give it back. You'll lose it or you'll scratch it. So I ain't loaning Jack out.
The
But
Burn
I
Trust.
hadn't seen this movie, The Prodigy. And he asked me if he could watch it. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't know anything about it. Honestly, someone gave it to me. I haven't watched it yet. And he watched The Prodigy and he suggested I watch it. He's like, I know you're always looking for independent filmmakers that you feel are going to make it at some point in their career. And I think this guy's got massive potential. After seeing The Prodigy, you'd probably like to watch it and try to, hook up with this guy somehow, try to meet up with him. So when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, man, this movie's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
Like, how did this guy make this movie? It was amazing. Like the action sequences, the production value, sound mix, everything was there. And I was like, dude, I've got to find this guy. So I went on a mission to try and find out who Will Kaufman was. And like everywhere I would go, there'd be another Will Kaufman movie, like at Redbox, or I'd find one on Amazon Prime or wherever, what streaming service was out at the time. And I kept thinking, man, how do I find this guy? And I had no idea how to find Will Kaufman. And then I finally found him on like social media, but I don't think I was able to get in touch with him that way because I'm sure he's used to strangers contacting him out of the blue. And funny enough, we worked on this commercial one day and I got home and I hadn't seen the call sheet. And the weird thing about this commercial was we had to wear these green screens over our head. So you just see these shadows talking to you all day. We never saw who was talking to us. My dumb ass gets home and looks at the call sheet and Will Kaufman was the producer, I think. And I'm like, what the hell? I wanted to meet Will Kaufman and I was on set with him, but I didn't know it was him. So I learned then you better start looking at your call sheets before you get to set. And then another weird thing happened. I was working on a short film with these people and they were telling me about this director that was up and coming that I should meet. Again, Will Kaufman. And I had directed this short film that was called Why. It was my first thing to direct and act in. And I was like, oh man, I got to send this to him and try to set up a meeting. So we set up a meeting. I got to meet some of him and his crew, and they were all just super cool. We went out for a few drinks and then we talked about just projects in the future that he was going to be working on. And I knew right away I couldn't just come in there hot like, hey, man, you got to cast me in this new movie. So I just wanted to get to know him, see how he works, see the process. And I would just go out and fill in wherever I could. I think the first one was Daylight's In.
Right.
If you ever see that movie, you'll see there's like a list of like probably 6 or 8 credits of things I did. So every time he needed anything or was shooting, I'd be like, hey, man, if you need cameras, I'll buy some cameras. I'll come out. So I would use like crash cameras, or that's what they call them, I guess, that you would put really close to where the explosives were going off.
Oh, okay.
During like the shootout sequences in case the camera got blown up or destroyed. So I would bring cameras out for that. And then I would bring sound out when he needed lighting. And I even was like doing stunt work out there. And I was begging him. I was like, dude, you got to put me in like some featured stunt role where I'll look awesome. And the stunt coordinator starts telling me about this part where the actor's going to pick up this zombie and just like smash him on this cot. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that one. that one sounds like it could get painful. So we brought in another stunt coordinator guy. His name is Freddie Poole. And then I got to meet another stunt guy, Freddie Poole. But the stunt I ended up doing in that movie, Daylight's In, if you've seen it, was the kitchen creature where he gets shot in the head. So that was really awesome that Will did that for me. And it kind of got to leave my mark on that movie where people could physically see that I worked on it versus just looking for my name in the credits.
You know, there was a movie that you and I talked about in private, which was the Marine 4 Moving Target. And
Oh
I
yeah,
remember,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so when you told me I'm in that movie, I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, you can see him for like a split. So I went back to watch the film. You are literally in for a split second before you get your head blown
Right,
off. And I was like, I was kind of surprised that I mean I guess because I know Will probably didn't have a lot of control when it came to the editing for that movie, but
right,
I was really surprised to see that you were in the film for literally a second. So I was wondering about that experience where because I know they shot that movie in Canada if I remember correctly. So
right.
you literally went there just for a short period of
I
time.
was I was part of a second unit that filmed somewhere in here in Texas. I don't know if it was for that film or another film. I don't know how we did it.
Okay.
But that was like stock footage I think that Will had
Oh, I
that we
see.
went out. I shot with the second unit director, and
Okay.
Will had said he called us and go, "Hey guys, I want to use this footage in Marine 4 if you guys are cool with it." And we're like, "Of course, use that footage in there." So there's like I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 shots of me with like the machine
Yeah,
gun
but it's literally for
shooting at
like
him.
a split second though. You can barely see it. Like I had to go back and
Hey
freeze frame
man,
those shots.
I can see it. I'm all up in there. And once again, I get shot in the head. But again, that was another Will Kaufman blessing, right? It was like I heard of a second unit that was shooting stuff for Kaufman for another movie. And the director's like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and go, hey, man, if you'll wait like 2 more days, I'll supply the gear with my production company. I just want to be in it somewhere. He did that. And that was how I got into Marine 4.
Did you? So when the movie came out, I mean, I'm sure you were aware that probably you're not gonna be in for that much, but when you saw the short snippet that you were in there, I mean, were you still happy with how the
Of
end product came
course,
out?
of
Okay,
course. When you're trying to break into a Will Kaufman movie, you're excited if you get like 2 or 3 seconds in there. You're just excited. I was just excited to get anywhere in there. I was just wanting to get on his radar and his team's radar because I like I said, I was getting to watch. He would let me come out on set and watch them work, and they were just such a fluid machine, and they worked so well together. And I was
right.
like, dude, like if there's a way to work with these guys, that would be amazing. And I just kept hoping that would happen. I think we also shot a Daylights In virtual reality short film that I was into. I don't know what happened to that one,
I think I saw
but
the
I
behind
was
the
in
scenes
that.
footage on YouTube for that as well.
Yeah, yeah, I was on that too. He let me go on there as a principal actor, and I got to be in
Mm.
that. So it was just like when opportunities would come up, if there was something he could use me, and he would throw me a bone. And then I guess during COVID was when I got the call from Will. He says, "Hey man, I got this project going on. There's not a lot of people going to want to work because of COVID had just kind of got started. I don't even think the vaccines had been approved at that point.
Mm.
And of course, I had to pay rent. Nobody was going to help me pay rent. So and I always wanted to work with him. The crazy thing about it was, though, that he couldn't tell me anything about the project. This is going to be the weirdest thing ever. I can't tell you anything about the project. There's no script that I can give you. All I can tell you is the part that you're going to be cast in needs long hair and a beard. And he showed me a picture from me at this movie called Arsenal with Nicolas Cage. And he's like, if you can look like that, that's the perfect look for this character that I need. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And I didn't look like that at the time. So I was buying every kind of hair care product that you could find to try to grow my beard and hair out faster.
Really?
Unfortunately, it didn't grow fast enough. We did end up having to hire a makeup artist that could like weave in the beard hair, make it longer, and make me look more like the character. But yeah, that was crazy because I really didn't know anything about it. And thankfully, I didn't know anything about it because I would have freaked out because the day I got to set or a few days before set, he's like, yeah, don't worry about anything. There's no script or anything, but I'm going to have you work with a person that's going to help you learn how to speak Arabic when you get here. I
Mm.
almost shit my pants, man. I was like, gotta learn Arabic? I can't even speak Spanish, bro. Like, is what I'm thinking. My wife's Mexican and she makes fun of me when I try to say stuff in Spanish. So how the hell am I going to pull off Arabic, But luckily, the dialect coach that I worked with and the one on set was able to help me phonetically figure out how to say everything. And I think it works for the movie. I think they helped me pull it off because even when I'm watching, I'm like, damn, I actually did pretty good. So I think it
So
worked out.
So this is for a Warhorse one you're referring to here, but so when you saw what that scene you're referring to, like because I think at the time it sounded like you didn't know what you were saying. You were just pretty much saying say it like this,
Yes,
said the
right,
line, and then once you saw
correct.
what you were saying when they put the subtitles there, were you just like, holy shit, that's what my character was saying the whole time?
Yeah. Telestisi Sharmuta. I still remember it. I think it means kiss my ass, bitch.
Wow. Did you ever ask anybody? Did you ever ask anybody if that was the actual way to say it correctly that spoke Arabic? You ever came across anybody that could actually confirm it?
I think there's different ways to say that kind of stuff in Arabic, but a lot of the Arabic people I would say it to or ask, they didn't really want to repeat it or say it, because of their religion. They weren't into saying that. They're like, yeah, that's not appropriate. I really don't want to talk about it or whatever. I was like,
okay.
Ooh, I guess I'm saying something bad. So it came off great though, man. I think everything. I got to work with Will a total of 12 days on Warhorse, I think.
Oh, wow.
And that was doing various things. I think as far as being in front of the camera, I think initially I was scheduled for 5 days, but the whole thing was, again, I didn't know what I was going to be doing. So that very first day when I was there, when we shot the scene with the girl in the cage, but there was no girl in the cage. There was this like blue tape. So he would be like, hey, you're going to look at this blue tape, and talk to this girl, the way you would with an Arabic accent. And we would come up with some different things to say to her. And I think some of the stuff that probably got cut was like, pretty girl, and I would say these weird things and just kind of look at her. So I went on for a while. I believe that got edited out of the final cut. But yeah, and then the peekaboo stuff and everything. So I had no idea what was going on. And then later on, I saw the girl on set, like later in the afternoon. And I'm like, who's that? And they're like, oh, that's the girl. And I'm like, what? That's the girl? So that's the girl I was talking to. So they only brought her in for like a few seconds. And I just reached in and she screamed. And that was the only time she was on set with me, was just when I reached my hands in there and screamed.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
I didn't scream. She screamed.
Well, of course, I know what you're talking about. But so then, okay. So moving on from that from Warhorse One now into the channel, because that was the one that was actually quite interesting with you, because, I talked about before in the beginning about what you had to do to prepare for the part, because you only had a short period of time to do so. And then, now you're on the set. I don't know how many days you were on there shooting for the scene, because you had a pretty substantial scene. And, at the time, I think when you and I had spoken messaging back and forth, like you hadn't seen the film yet. You heard about it, but you heard about how the film was coming out. But, seeing it for the first time, I remember on your social media post, you said you were just blown away with what you saw.
Right.
But I'm curious about your perspective on your performance from what you saw for yourself. Like, were you actually happy with what you have done so far at that point?
Well, yeah, I had to be happy with it, man. I saw it with two sold out theaters were the two times I saw it. I saw it once at the premiere in New Orleans, right, which was on July 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
So that whole time you're just sweating in the theater. It's already hot as hell in New Orleans, but I'm just like super wet with sweat as you're watching, going, because I start hearing the actors talk about Clarence. I'm like, holy crap, my scene's coming up. And as soon as I opened that door and said something about fuck, or what did I say? I can't even remember the damn line. It's holy shit, get the fuck in here or something.
Yeah.
Or how the fuck you guys been or something. I don't know. Whatever I said, the audience just loved it. I mean, the reaction from the audience from that entire, because I think there's two scenes. There's a scene break in the middle there, where the guy goes and makes a phone call. But the whole time that was all going on, the audience was just listening to their reactions was incredible. And after the movie, so many people came up to me and they shook my hand and said, hey, I really loved Clarence in the movie, or hey, you want to work on me? I got some ailments, or, there's all these jokes going on, and people taking pictures of me, producers coming up to me going, hey, man, I know we had a limited time when we shot your scene, and I can't believe how well it turned out. Did you like it? And I was like, oh my God, I was blown away with it, because I think we only had that location for a super limited time. And I remember we shot it just so fast, super fast. Like, super fast shoot. So
when you say fast, like how fast you talking about a whole night, couple hours? What are you speaking about?
Yeah. Well, I think it felt like we went there. We may have shot for like an hour and then broke for lunch, which I shouldn't have eaten at lunch, because I'm sitting here. I had this great lean, sick physique because I looked like I was sick. And then I ate. And when you on that kind of diet, you just blow it up so huge. And I bloated up quite a bit, and I noticed it. And when I came back from lunch when we were filming, I was like, oh man, I went 35 days without eating like this, and then I broke. But I thought, oh God, what happens if I get to set, and I'm working with Max or Clayne, and I freaking pass out because I'm so hungry? Then that's not going to be good either. So I was like, I'll just eat a little bit, but it was just enough to get bloated and go back. But I felt like we shot it a total maybe 3 or 4 hours. It was super fast.
Damn.
I mean, it went so fast for me. And those guys were so cool to me. I remember being in my trailer and someone knocked at the door, and I'm just assuming it's either a production assistant, makeup, wardrobe, somebody. And it ended up being Max, and he came over to introduce himself to me. And I was like, oh my God, that's the dude from 13 Hours
Yeah.
and all these movies and shows that I watched. Because I'd watched him in The Purge. I watched this whole season of The Purge. I mean, I watched the guy and everything. He's awesome. So that was just the whole experience. And then as soon as I met Clayne, he was so welcoming. Everybody that I met that night was so welcoming. They just brought me on and made me feel like I was part of the family. And that's like so rare on a movie set or even a TV show, because especially if you're only going to be shooting for a night and you're only going to be there for a day, you don't really get to know people that well. But they just were so nice to me. And we were always talking or taking pictures or talking about stuff behind the scenes. So they made me feel so welcome. That was an extremely rare thing that I hadn't experienced a lot in the business.
So again, you saw the first night at the premiere, and then you saw it a second time with a sold out crowd. I'm assuming opening night, is that when you saw the second time around?
The opening was on a Friday, and
Right.
the showtime just was like a crazy showtime. It might have been like at noon on a Friday or something. So we got together and discussed it. And I was like, I really just rather see if we can kind of like post up about it, that it's going to be playing on a Saturday night, and see if we can't get like a 9 o'clock showing or something. And that's what we did. We ended up having them do it at like 9:10. And I put that word out on it, and I had I think 30 or 40 people respond immediately and bought tickets that I knew of. And then the rest of the cast that were going to be passing through town or that were nearby, they put the word out. And the next thing you know, the thing was sold out. I mean, even the freaking front row. I had friends that I didn't even know were coming to the screening, and they showed up and they were like, hey, man, can't you hook us up with seats? Because we're going to be on the front row. And I'm like, dude, this is a regular theatrical screening of a movie. This is not a premiere. This is not a special event. It's like, this is, you got to buy the regular tickets just like everybody else, like I had to.
When you saw it, then I mean, did you get an idea as far as what the overall story was, or was Will almost the same way with Warhorse One, where you're like, here's a snippet of your sides, and that's all you're gonna need to know for what you're gonna be shooting there, or did you have an idea of what the overall story was about at that point?
I knew a little bit more about the story because I got to see what characters were available for the channel, and there was a few that me and Will had discussed, but for some reason, I guess because I had taken care of my mom for 30 years, I just felt so drawn to Clarence, because that was kind of my relationship with her when she was alive, that she would yell at me to get her stuff and do stuff and everything. I was like, dude, I'm so I got to play Clarence in this movie. I got to play Clarence. It has to happen. And the weird thing is, we literally had her funeral the day before the premiere in New Orleans. So it's just so crazy, because this part was like something I connected well with because of my relationship with my mom. And then she passed right before the premiere. So it was really weird. It was like a bittersweet thing, but it was just so cool to kind of relive those moments, because I remember on a daily basis her yelling at me about something to me, going, all right, Mom, whatever. So it kind of brought it back full circle when I was watching the movie.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I saw the movie before your mom had passed away, and with that scene you're referring to, I actually thought the same thing as well too. That was one of the things that I picked up on, that might have been a connect. I was going to ask you about that, but now that you mentioned it, I'm glad you confirmed it for me. But you said it was bittersweet here for you. But when you saw it though, did it have, at least at the time when you're shooting it, obviously you had that connection with it, but seeing it, for the first time, and then after the passing of your mother,
right?
Did your perspective change a little bit about the scene in itself because of that, or did you still have the same consistent view of it prior and then even after the fact?
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely hit me emotionally. I definitely had some tears while that scene was going on, for sure, and I'm sure I will every time I see it, or anytime I see her in my movie Cherokee Creek. I'm sure I'm going to feel those moments, because I mean, I my entire life has been taking care of her, because as soon as I graduated high school, she had a massive stroke, and then it was just every few years it was just one crazy illness thing that was going to kill her after another, and then we'd have to work our asses off to get her to overcome that, and she beat that. I mean, the woman had like 9 lives. She really did, and she fought to the bitter end. I mean, I don't think she would have. I don't even know if she would have ever given up if I didn't give her permission. It was one of those things where she was going to pass pretty much, and she was in the worst shape possible. and you know you can't physically talk to them anymore, but you talk, they can't talk back to you, but you feel like you got to give them permission and go, hey, you're almost 83, you've beaten everything in the world, but I don't think you can beat this one. You know, this is it's okay if you want to go at this point. You got to give them permission, and that's tough to do, man. It really is.
You know, there's actually no, I'm sorry, you're going to say
the selfish part of you wants your parents to live forever, but
right.
I mean, with medical science these days, they can pretty much keep you alive forever. Right. I mean, it's just what kind of quality of life are you going to have if you're just hooked up to machines 24/7 and you can't talk, you can't breathe on your own. It's not really worth it to me, or most people wouldn't want to live like that.
No, I would agree too. I was going to mention before that because I think if I remember correctly, the first time you and I had spoken, you know, here on the show, I think I mentioned to you that I can't remember if it was during the show or it was after the fact. I don't remember the details, but I do remember bringing it up to you about where when I saw Cherokee Creek for the first time, I watched through the credits, and then there was the behind the scenes of the lines that your mom had just ran for her scene, and then it was just her reaction after the fact, which actually ended up being one of my favorite moments of the film, which wasn't a part of the movie per se, but it was it was a nice genuine moment that I thought you get to see. Because, you know, you had shared before about how, you know, it was stressful on the set for, you know, to shoot the film for that length of period of time. And then there was that one moment, I don't think I told you about it, but I remember knowing the story that there was a split moment where, you know, your mom said the lines, and then I think she said, you know, are we done? And you're like, yeah, we're good, Mom. And then her reaction, then your reaction, you're laughing with that. It was a really nice captured moment that I thought that showed, for me, a moment where it seemed like the stress was out the window, and you just happened to be in a really wonderful moment with your mom, where she was actually part of a project that you were creating from start to finish, and she was, you know, she was a part of that ride, if you will. So, I think I told you about that at the time, that I was actually really happy to see that, and then of course, you know, the way things had turned out for now, you know, I think my perception of the film has changed a little bit now, because I happened to see the film after the fact as well too, and there is a part of me that actually appreciates the film that much more because of that little moment you had with your mom, which ends up being one of the funny parts of the film. But just the aspect of you involving your mom with your passion project, if you will, that I thought was quite beautiful in my opinion. So, you know, the fact that you have that, I think, is a really wonderful thing that you can still carry to this day. So, I mean, even now with the release of Cherokee Creek, though, you know, I talked before about this movie. Whenever I get a chance to show people the film, you know, I tell them, you got to watch this movie. In fact, my brother, this is a true story. My brother came back to visit here recently, and he was like, hey, do you still have that movie Cherokee? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Let's go rent it. So we ended up renting it, even though I own it, but I still rented. But either way,
that's nice, man. I appreciate that.
No, you're welcome. And so we rented the movie, and we're watching it again. And then my son comes down and watches, because my son wanted to see it too, because he's seen it before. So all three of us are watching. Then my wife is coming downstairs and watches the movie too, and then she ends up leaving as well, because the humor just wasn't her cup of tea. So
I would imagine that was an awkward moment.
So, you know, and we talked about that, and then, you know, and I also had Natalia after, because you were on her show called Comedy Cinema, when we guys had watched Cherokee Creek on there as well, and so any opportunity I can to speak with somebody about the film, I'll take full advantage of it. And this was actually one of the times where I remember, I think when you first reached out to me, the very first time you reached out to me, you know, you talked about your film, and I remember when I first saw, like, in the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, I'm going to review this film. I love this movie. And
awesome.
When I bought the film from you, and then I ended up buying it again to send to my friend, because he had seen the movie and loved it as well too. And as a surprise, I wanted to send it out to him, which I appreciate sending it out to him directly. So, but what I remember with him saying was that because he loved Billy Blair's character, Vinny Blades, in the movie.
Right.
And I was like, if you can get him to sign the Blu-ray, that would make his day. And of course, when he received it, first he was like, "This guy." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah."
We should have just gave him a line. He'd been like,
we talked about this. Like, it'd be so fun if he just drew a line, and then you would just get it right away. He's like, "Yeah, that would have been the perfect touch to it." I was like, "Yeah," but Billy, you know, is very respectful when it comes to that. But either way, though, but that movie, honestly, for me, because, you know, if you had never reached out to me, I would have never heard about that film. There's a 99% chance I would have never heard about that movie, let alone know about the whole story that still involves with the film. But, you know, despite that, though, you still go out of your way to champion the movie. Has anything changed as far as any sort of trajectory for the film outside of where it's available right now on Amazon Prime, where you can rent it and buy it. But you have streaming like platforms like Tubi, which almost show everything. And,
Right.
you talked before about how some streaming platforms are refusing to show the film because of the content. I'm thinking, well, there's other stuff out there that's even worse, and they're still showing that.
Right. And it continues to get worse every day.
Right.
Way worse than our movie. So I think some of those movies and shows may have seen our movie and they go, ooh, what can we do to push the limit even more?
Right.
So now they're pushing even more than we did.
But I mean, are you trying to make any effort to get the film out into other platforms? Like in this case, like Tubi being a major place. I think Tubi, if Tubi is a great place to show a film like yours, that I think could gain some traction. Where
I totally agree with you. I think the thing for me was we had been ripped off so bad back when that happened, and we lost so many hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially that I just like I'm leaving directing for now. I'm going to go focus on acting, try to build a name for myself as an actor. And then I'll come back to this movie once my name gets out there a little bit more in some of these bigger studio movies, and like my name getting out there with Reservation Dogs and now the channel and more quality projects. Hopefully someone will go back and look at it. Or now, because my audience is growing on social media, I can go back now and share with them Cherokee Creek. But there is talks. The guy who Screen Team has recently called and said, hey, we can get some pre-orders going for this. It's a possibility we could do a whole nother run of it, so that's something we're talking about. And then I am talking about getting with another aggregator. As much as I hate doing that, I'd have to do it though to get back on Tubi or something. So that's the thing that I hate the most, is having to go through all these middlemen to get on a platform. Like if I could just go directly to the platform and we could sign a deal, I'd feel so much better. But it's just awful when you got to go to some middleman that you don't know anything about. But the company's like, you got to go with these guys if you want to get to us. And then you have to trust them, not knowing what's going to happen with the money when the money's supposed to come in. So if we can find a way to get it on Tubi and I can trust who's going to put it out, yeah, I definitely would love to put it out on Tubi for sure. And any other platforms, it'd be great. We did really good on iTunes back in the day. They were so good to us, and our audience really responded to iTunes. I mean, I think we were like the top 3 horror comedy on there until I had to take it off because of the legal stuff that was happening. So we were killing it, man. It makes me sick when I think about it, because I'm like, dude, there's no telling how much money we could have made off that, and led to me directing a sequel to it, of course, and then doing some other passion projects that I've been working on as well.
Do you think though that if things starts to pick up momentum for you, that, because I think, I'm not sure if I talked to you or maybe I've talked to Billy about this, about where, if there's some momentum for you to promote Cherokee Creek, that if there is an interest to distribute it through, let's say, Tubi, and then would you consider possibly doing like a tour of the film where you can travel around and say, here, we're doing a premiere for Cherokee Creek at this location at this time, and then hopefully be able to garner some more people to show interest in the film, and then having the word of mouth spread out where people can, more or less, spread the word that is Cherokee Creek. Are you consider doing that if the possibility would arise?
Oh, that would be awesome. I mean, my whole intent for the movie back when I was doing it was for it to be a midnight theatrical movie.
Right.
Because I loved going to midnight movies at the time. I saw Tucker and Dale versus Evil at a midnight screening, and I loved it. I thought it was just an amazing movie. And our movie is inspired by that in a lot of ways, by so many other movies as well. But I would love, I still think it's a great midnight movie. I don't even know how that's going right now, if they're still doing those around the country, but it would be awesome to see Cherokee Creek back on the big screen again.
So, when you started to focus more on acting, I'm actually curious about what do you have a performance for you that sticks out that made you realize, okay, I'm glad I stuck down this path, and to showcase what I'm able to pull off here at more or less at this higher level? Do you have a role that comes to mind that made you feel that you've actually made a good decision in pursuing this path here?
All the later stuff that I did, I felt pretty much. The confidence came from doing my first short film, Why, when I played a really good role in that. And then doing Cherokee Creek, of course, when I had to do every job and act. And then I just was meeting, at that time I'd met an actor, his name is Terry Dale Parks, that was in Cherokee Creek. He was the guy sitting in the front of the canoe. He was more of the straight hunter at the beginning. Yeah. And I would work with him auditions, and he just brought so much to his auditions when he would come in, and we would film those. And I just learned so much from him. Like, don't worry about the script so much. Don't worry about trying to be perfect. Sometimes those imperfect moments in your character or in your audition are what's going to get you hired. And the guy would just do some crazy shit. Like if he wanted to, he'd start chewing gum or eating in the middle of the scene, or change lines, or throw a couple F-bombs in there, even if it was for a TV show. And I was like, damn, I like this guy. He just doesn't give a damn.
Yeah.
It worked for him. His kind of thing was, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. And if you want to hire me, that's great. And if you don't, I'm okay with it. So I kind of stole from him a little bit because I was so impressed by him. And I was like, you know what, dude, I'm going to apply what you're doing to my acting and just kind of do whatever I want to do. And if they don't like it, then they don't hire me. And I'm okay with that. I think with the character of Clarence in the channel, you can see he stands out the way that I played him.
Yeah.
And a lot of the characters, like in even Warhorse 1 or even Reservation Dogs, I like to play characters that they get the audience's attention and they're not forgettable characters. I don't have any desire to play characters that you're just going to forget about. Right. So once I started watching stuff with audiences and getting their reaction, when I could watch them watch me, I was like, I think I'm doing something right by doing that. I know it may not get me as many jobs because sometimes the lead actors or the director or producers, whatever, they don't want some guy coming in there who's going to try to steal a scene. Right. But I definitely like to steal a scene when I can. So I definitely try because I want people to go, hey, I like that guy that played that Clarence role, or that guy that played the White Wizard on Reservation Dogs. He's pretty funny, or he was pretty good. So I'm doing that on purpose, and I'm hoping someone's going to like it. I had an opportunity to play this really, really fun character on, God, what is the name of the show that plays on HBO about the religious stuff?
Oh,
it's got Danny McBride in it. The Righteous Gemstones.
The Righteous Gemstones, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. I had
Goodman,
an awesome read for that. And I think it was just too much for him.
Really?
I got so close. I was so close, man. And I really love that show. So hopefully another opportunity comes back. But man, that character, I think the way I was going to play it, it was definitely had an opportunity to be reoccurring. And that's what I'm always going for when I do these things, like on Reservation Dogs or whatever. You want to try to get on a show, make an impact, and right. Get in there with the cast and crew and make friends and have a great time and hope they'll invite you back to play again. And I was trying my best for sure.
So with the Righteous Gemstones, did they tell you as far as why you did not get the part, or is it one of those things like, hey, they just gave it somebody else and they moved on?
No, they just give it somebody else and move on. I think honestly that they probably have, I think casting picks probably like a handful of people that they really like, and it could be anywhere from 3 to 5. And they're like, these are the ones I suggest you hire that I think brought something incredible to the role. And then production, producers, directors, actors, whoever makes that decision will look at it. And they'll pick the one that they think is going to fit in best with those scenes.
Okay. So,
but I have definitely heard of people being kicked out of scenes for standing out too much, so, and being let go. That is a real thing.
Right. What, do you get nervous when you go on auditions now?
Well, they're all basically at my studio, so I can light it and I can do it. I love that control as a director.
Okay.
I mean, because for me, I know some people want to be directed. And right. They want someone to tell them how to play a role, and they want someone to give them notes.
Right.
But when I initially read it, I just want to do it my way. I kind of like, well, I want to see what I can bring to the table. And if it's 100% wrong and you hate it, you can give me a note, and then I can either retape it again, or we just decide I'm not right for it. I mean, that could be also that I'm just not right for the role. So but I don't really get nervous like I used to anymore, because now if it's something I connect with and I feel like I can bring something to it, then I feel very confident that I'm the right person for it. If I don't feel confident that I'm the right person, then I probably don't have any business doing it.
So you mentioned before about like potentially working some projects down the line if things are picking up here for you. So looking to directing now again, is that something you're anticipating to go back into, or is it just more or less focusing one thing at a time until the opportunity comes for you to be able to take on that duty?
The deal with directing, and like I tell everybody, the thing with acting that's so great is you worry about you.
Right.
That's it. You worry about you. When you're directing, you got to worry about every single thing.
Right.
So chances are there's not a person on production that you're not going to have some type of major discussion with. And if you hire great people, they should have ideas that they want to do certain things, and it may be totally different than what you originally planned. So you've got to have those, and they could be intense discussions sometimes, you know, and sometimes as a director, you got to admit you were wrong and go with their ideas. But some people can't do that, you know. But it's just the stress of it, though, like the stress it puts on you mentally and physically to go through that on a daily basis. And then you basically, and for me, I just have to tell my family, like, look, I'm going to tell you guys bye while I go do this movie, because I'm going to probably go through hell for the next month or two, and then we can talk about the small stuff later. But if it's nothing major, don't call me on set and talk to me about it, because I'm going to be so focused with putting out fires and dealing with the problems. Because when you're dealing with people in movies every day, there's always going to be some challenge that comes up, whether, you know, we couldn't get these props, we couldn't get this location, this actor dropped out, we're going to try to get this actor instead. So it's always, I always say the director's basically, if he's got some kind of control over the project, he's like the captain of the ship. He goes down with the ship and he's doing everything he can to keep that ship floating and making sure it's a success at the end of the day.
Do you? I was going to ask you. What was the question I was going to lead into next year? So, so when it comes to your when it comes to the projects you're working on here, do you think that, because, you know, you work with Cherokee Creek as an example, like you literally did everything, right? But do you consider yourself a good multitasker as a result of from working on there and then being able to focus on one aspect of the field, if you will, that you feel like that if you're given more responsibilities, that you're able to handle that pretty easily? Or is that something you have to work on to be able to get better with each project? Because it sounds like to me that, you know, because I think before you mentioned in the past that, you know, you got pretty stressed out, and you even warned people too that were going to work with you that, you know, I'm probably going to be a dick to you, but just know that as long as you do your job, we'll be fine. But
Right.
you know, apart from that, though, do you think that you've gotten a better handle of the multitasking or the stress level field that comes with the, you know, with this particular field?
Well, for me, the thing I learned about Cherokee Creek: don't spend your own money, and
Right.
don't do it the Kevin Smith way, where you're putting everything on these credit cards. Because I mean, if you're doing a day of work, right, and you
Right.
know this day is going to cost you $5,000 on your credit card, you're gonna be fucking stressed out. I
Right.
mean, you're gonna be stressed. And if you've got actors not showing up on time and someone shows up like 4 hours late, you're gonna be pissed. Or if they lose their wardrobe, or they lost, you know, someone stole a prop on set. I mean, these kind of things are gonna just flip you out, because you're like, I could literally spend $5,000 on this day and we not get a fucking shot off, you know, because you still got to pay the people. They still showed up. The people that you hire are still showing up, you know, and there's always those things, like things go wrong. You know, there's things where the camera breaks, the lens on the camera breaks, there's the sensor breaks, the drone crashes into the water. I mean, we had, somehow the footage got screwed up. We watched all the footage on playback on some drone stuff one day, and it was a huge day, I think near the end of Cherokee Creek, where we had police officers and ambulances and just tons of people in wardrobe. I mean, this day was so freaking expensive. And this something happened to all that footage that was shot by the drone, so we had to go do that day again, and it was painful. It was so painful, you know. And you try to line all that up, because you're trying to give everybody their cues, and you're trying to signal everybody to get it perfect, because even then the ground is wet with the dew from the morning, you know, the moisture. And once they through, now you've got tracks all over it. So when you go back through and do the take two, anybody who's paying attention is going to go, oh, look, they obviously did like 3-4 takes, because you can see that where they drove in the grass. So it's just almost, you're so stressed out trying to get it perfect. And sometimes good is good enough. You're not always going to get things perfect, but you shoot for perfect. But sometimes you just got to be okay with good enough.
But do you think you got a better handle of the stress that comes with the job? For example, if you go back into directing soon, do you think you do better as far as
I think the whole
concerned?
thing is, it's very important to have people, you know, those department heads there, if you can get them. By no means that I like having to do those jobs. And a lot of those days when I was lucky enough that an actor might be there, and he might go, hey, I can hang out once my scene's wrapped, and I don't mind helping move a couple, or helping you with sound, putting the headphones on, making sure it's sounding good, stuff like that. So those guys were my saviors when they could do that. But of course, as we got further into Cherokee Creek and the nights got colder and we're talking 10 degrees, there was times where people were like, because they're just seeing me out there, man. You got this guy hanging Home Depot lights, you know, in trees, running around with a boom on a C-stand, you know, with a sound mixer, and he's doing all this stuff. So I'm sure, when everybody saw the movie, I had a private screening for each and every one of them before I was even the movie was even finalized, just to show them, and they couldn't believe how well it turned out. They're like, holy crap, this actually looks and feels like a studio movie. It looks amazing. But they don't know that when you're out there. They just see some guy with this freaking little camera, some Home Depot lights, construction lights hanging stuff in trees. So I think everybody thought I was a nutcase, and it was probably going to turn out like crap because a lot of movies never get finished.
Right.
I know movies I worked on in like 2014 that aren't finished. And one that we've worked on, like I think it was like 2018 maybe or something like that. I just saw the screening for it recently, and it was amazing. I was blown away with it. And I was like, how is this possible? Because typically, the more time that passes from a movie that you worked on, the more it's just going to get buried, and they're going to file bankruptcy on it or whatever. The movie's just never going to get finished because everybody's so excited about the idea of making the movie, right? They don't realize, holy crap, it's going to be hell to edit it, color it, do some kind of sound mix, get people to do the score. Okay. And then once you get done with that, they don't realize there's another hell coming for you, which is the marketing of the movie and trying to get it distribution. So there's just all these battles that no one really plans for. So I don't think anybody expected Cherokee Creek to turn out. And I think we got it out like within the year. I think I put it out within, I was editing at like 3:00 in the morning. Like I had my day job and whatever else projects I would work on. And I would be dead tired at like 3:00 in the morning, but I'm like, dude, I got to work on this for like 3 hours a day, no matter what, and I would just keep working at it.
When you and I spoke here on the show the first time around a while back, I think I asked you at the time if you, because you talked about the stress that comes with the business here when it comes to getting gigs, because you put it up at best for, and Will said it too, that this industry is an endurance. You have to just keep grinding it. But despite the fact that you get one job, that doesn't qualify for like, well, since you got that job, therefore you can get this and this. It's a whole.
No, you think it did. I think it did in the 80s because I've listened to like Kiefer Sutherland and other guys talk about it. They were like, back in our day, they were kind of part of that whole younger generation where, if you remember, before they came along, before Jason Patrick and Kiefer Sutherland did Lost Boys, it was kind of an older person's game, the acting game. It was all about people in their 30s and 40s, not these younger people. And that kind of set off a whole new thing. And he was saying, like, back then, if you had been in one hit movie, they would pretty much hire you to do another 6, as long as that the 6th was a hit too, you could keep working. Right. But now it's like you get one chance and it better be a hit. And even then, that doesn't always guarantee you're going to get another job.
But so my question was that I was going to lead into was that because at the time I asked you if you ever feel like quitting, and I think you said no because you don't want to quit. But do you have is that still more of the same mindset that you have, or has something changed a little bit where maybe you have more of a positive look at certain things, whereas before maybe it was a little tainted because of the experience you've had with Cherokee Creek, among other things as well too? Has anything changed for you at all about your approach with how you're going with this now?
It's just, you live it day by day, bro. Okay. I mean, obviously with the strike going on right now, things aren't looking great, but I'm going to stay positive and just be like, I think this is kind of my ride or die thing, like I'm going to do it to the wheels fall off, because there's nothing else in this world I love doing, and you got to love it. Right. I mean, you got to love it to do it, because logically it doesn't make sense. And they've, without getting into what the whole strike is about, but logically, if you want to be an actor in this day and age, in this market, it doesn't financially make a lot of sense to want to do that. And they've all discussed it, like everybody who's doing it, who's on all these hit television shows, because the residuals are so bad or non-existent, we're all having to hustle doing side jobs, whether they're bartenders or driving for Uber or delivering food or whatever. It's not that we just get to act anymore. So I think it freaks people out when they hear that, because a lot of people will look me up or something and say, hey, you've been in all these movies and I saw online you're worth like 1.5 mil. And you're like, yeah, that's not true. So you're like, I'm barely getting my rent paid every month, bro. So definitely not true. I've got to hustle 7 days a week, no matter what it is. And I do all kinds of crazy jobs. I'll be doing photography. I just posted about a job yesterday. We're doing like a commercial on a guy building a basement for like a $3 million home being built. So you never know where I'm going to be. I'm always running around. I'm either going to be a DP on a commercial, doing sound mixing for something, directing a music video. I'm doing all that so that I can act and hopefully get back into directing features. That's the true love, is the acting and directing feature films. But everything else is just part of the daily hustle to keep the food on the table and the lights on at the apartment.
So let me ask something real quick because I've been asking this question kind of lately here with some people, but I'm actually curious to hear your perspective because I love your perspective on certain things here. But so let's say, for example, if this all dries up for you, there's no audition callbacks, there's no demand, if you will, of like, hey, listen, we're moving to a whole another direction. We're not really interested in working with you at this time. But if we do change our minds, we'll reach out to you. But if all that were to dry up for you right now, how do you think you would react to that for yourself?
You figure you got to just figure out another hustle, man,
Okay.
so you can get back in it. I think it would be temporary. I'd hope. I mean, I'm going to fight like hell to do it, even if I have to do it myself again.
Mm,
I do. Unfortunately, what I had before, what I would call angel investors, these guys that just watch you from afar,
hmm
and they'll call you up and go, "Hey, man, here's 10 grand, here's 5 grand, here's 20 grand. I want to be your investor. I want to. I've got like so much money that my job is to help people out and help them be successful. And those people exist. I knew a few of them. Unfortunately, they passed away, but I did know them. They were prepared to. That was the thing that was so crazy about Cherokee Creek. We had all these people ready to do the sequel, ready to do other movies, and they just had these unfortunate, timely deaths that happened after the movie. So you're like, well, shit. Now I got to like go out and try to find these great people again that I just formed this great team with, and now I got to start over from scratch. So if I had to start over from scratch again, I would, but I hope that I don't have to. Getting to work with Kaufman on his projects has just been a dream come true. So I hope with the channel, I would be shocked if that doesn't open more doors for him.
yeah.
Hopefully it does, and hopefully he remembers me, and I'll get a shot at playing somebody else in one of his movies.
I, I've been in a position where I've been lucky where people have been able to reach out, and you're actually one of the few people that have reached out to me. For as long as I've been doing it now, which hasn't been that long, 2 years, if that, I think. And but you believe it or not, you're actually one of the few people that come to mind as far as like, um, when you simply just reached out, hey, I here's my scene in Daylight Sin, and then you said, here's my movie, if you want to check it out, and then I did, and it kind of just led off into where we are with it now. I've been from time to time been able to keep up with you, check in, hey, how you doing, whatever else, and doing what I can to help promote anything that you're doing to the best of my ability. But one of the things that I remember distinctly from my experience here with you, especially in the very beginning, was that um, just a simple little what you did to me was very simple, but at the time it was like, I don't know why, but it felt like it was mind blowing to me because all you did was say, check out my movie, and that changed
Right,
everything for me. And something as simple as that, I didn't realize the impact that it could have. Because you hear these stories before, not to say that I have the power to, here's Todd Jenkins, and all of a sudden the opportunities
right,
are flooding your gates here. But it was one of those things where I started to learn not to take for granted the simple things when it comes to someone coming up and say, hey, I have this here, check it out, let me know what you think, and
right,
that literally changed all that for me. So in a lot of ways, you making an introduction of yourself to me did change my perspective on a lot of things to the point where, I think I'm leaning more towards. I shouldn't say that. I am leaning more towards the indie filmmakers because studios in my mind, I figure that they've got their bases covered there, so they've got all the
right,
funds that they need. But the indie filmmakers, in my opinion, are the guys I tend to refer to them as the hidden gems, where I like to look for the work that no one's ever heard of before, and then say you should check out these guys here because these guys
right,
are really really good at what they do, and if they can do this on a very small scale, on a very limited budget, and it turned out this well, there's no reason for anyone to have shitty movies or shitty TV shows because you have
right.
quality work out
Absolutely.
there from guys like Todd. I said before, Todd Jenkins, Will Kaufman, Jesse Johnson, Kyle Quick Harris, a number of other people that I've come across
Yeah,
here that,
Jesse is awesome. I got to meet him
yeah,
briefly when he was here promoting his latest movie. So that was cool. It was kind of a weird experience. I was actually ordering my popcorn and a hot dog was taking too long and I was getting frustrated. And I look over and there he is. He's right next to me. I go, Jesse. So I got to hang out with him for a little while.
he
We
was waiting for
talked
his hot
shop.
dog too.
Yeah, well, he was putting in his order. Him and Thomas Jane were ordering right beside me, and I was like, "Hey, man, well, I'm here to see your movie, and I know I'd love to take pictures with you guys and maybe talk shop." And everyone's waiting for the movie to start, and here we are outside taking pictures and ordering food.
Well,
So we were
so
the last people to come into the theater, I think.
Well, it's because I was happy that, to hear that you got the opportunity to meet with him, because I hope one day you do get the chance to work with him as well. In fact, I remember you at the time. I remember when you and I were speaking. I had said at that time, I remember distinctly what you said, which was, I'm going to be talking to Jesse later today, I think it was, and then you said
Right,
that's one guy I want to work with as well too. I
right,
always
right,
remember that. So, anyways, the point I'm getting is that, the fact that you just made a simple gesture as reaching out to me, that really changed a lot on how I looked at things, and in a lot of ways, you did certainly help influence my perspective on indie filmmakers, because when I had to learn about what it took to make the movie, and how much it costs to make the film, and then how it turned out, and then get my reaction, but then also my son's reaction, my brother's reaction, my best friend's reaction, and seeing how
right. That's
all those
awesome.
guys had loved the movie. And I thought, if these guys can do that and have that effect on these core people that I have in my life here, imagine if they can do, if they were able to reach in a much broader audience here, but for some reason they're
Absolutely.
unable to get past that threshold. So, that's why I'm a very strong proponent for you, because I believe that with what you've been able to pull off with that film and the various other things you do, you're actually really good at what you do, in my opinion. So I'm always going to be there to support. But at the same time, I understand how hard the industry is. And that's why I lean more towards, guys such as yourself, because for as long as you've been doing it here for, knowing that it can be stripped away of you like that and still stay consistent with that, I have a great amount of respect for artists like yourself that do that despite the limitations that may be presented to you, and the limited opportunities that are also, may be there. But then, as you mentioned before, you had great opportunities for something, and then just like that, it was taken away, despite the fact it was almost guaranteed. So the fact of the
Sure.
matter is that there is a strong mindset that I think you guys have, that I don't think people really truly respect, that I think they should, and really consider the hard work that goes into that, but also with what you guys carry in here to maintain that as well too.
Right.
So this is me, essentially me giving you your flowers, because I think with what you have been able to do for the length of time you've been able to do here for, I have nothing but respect here for you for what you do, and I always look forward to everything that you have coming down the pipeline here.
Thank
I
you.
hope that someday the opportunities will present themselves where you are able to get more work, not for the fame and glory, because I've said it before, I don't care about that. I really just care about more opportunities for the people that I follow here, such as yourself.
Right.
So in closing, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to say for anyone that can be on the lookout for anything outside of the channel that you can more or less let people know, that being on the lookout for, that we can be expecting for us to be checking out in the near future.
Yeah, I would say the best movie I worked on in all the years. I think it's been over 20 years at this point.
Right.
But the channel, man, I've been blown away with it. The two times I got to see it in the theater, I'm probably going to watch it more often, obviously with more friends and have them over my place. But I just can't thank Will Kaufman enough for that opportunity, man, to play Clarence. Because like I said, whenever I saw that character in the breakdown of the script, and I pitched it to Will that I wanted to play it, he gave me the sides, and then I had to show him what I had in mind for Clarence, and then he kind of gave me some notes, and then I retweaked it. And then we talked about I weighed 210 pounds at the time because I was bulking up for another movie, and we were supposed to film that, and that fell through. So you're just like, oh God, I got all the way here. I worked my ass off every day to put on this weight. And then he's like, well, Clarence is kind of like pothead and lives at home with his mom. So he can't weigh, he can't be a bulky 210 pounds. He needs to be like 160 pounds. And he sent me a picture of me when I weighed 160 pounds. I was like, that's going to be tough. So it was just a lot of salmon and broccoli. And thanks to the wife for cooking that every day. And then I would just do up to 10 miles every day, whether it was walking, running, whatever. I had to put in the 10 miles. And sometimes that meant working out 3 times a day, whatever it took to get it done. Because I was a man on a mission, and I wanted to be able to deliver for Kaufman so that everyone would remember Clarence. And I think we did that. I think we delivered.
I think so too. So for the cameras, I'm going to say thank you again for giving me the time to speak with me, because I know you got your hands pretty full with your schedule. But I would love to do this again in future talks here, because you're actually one of my favorite guests that I love to have on the show. And I actually, once in a while, I'll go back and listen to several conversations, and yours is one of them that I like to come
Oh, well,
across here
thank
to
you.
listen to. So I
I can
appreciate.
talk a long time. So.
I know you can. So, but I'm hoping the next time we have more time to do so here. But so for the cameras, I'm going to say thank you again for your time, and until next
You
time.
betcha.
Here's
Oh,
to
let me
you.
mention
Yeah.
a couple things I do have coming up I can talk about. Blind Blood is one of my favorite films that I've seen recently.
Oh yeah.
And I hope that Blind Blood will come out. Billy Blair is also in that. He gave a great performance. Everybody gives a great performance in that movie. Just solid movie all the way through. So hopefully that will come out this year. Again, that is Blind Blood. I believe you can find it on Instagram and Facebook under Blind Blood Movie.
Yeah.
And another one is like a Western, and I hear it's got some comedy in it. I hope that our parts were funny. I won't know till I see it. And it's called Harsh Treatment. And that one's going to be a lot of fun. So I have huge high hopes for Blind Blood and Harsh Treatment. And those will hopefully come out this year or early 2024, hopefully. But we shall see. But for now, definitely support the channel. Tell everybody about the channel. If you want to go back and see a raunchy horror comedy, check out Cherokee Creek. That's a fun one. You can see that. I got that up on Instagram and everything. The only place you can watch it, though, is Amazon, and it's only 99 cents to rent and $4.99 to own it, I believe. So that's a good deal.
I'll make sure I have the links in the description down below for people to look into that as well. But until then, cheers to you, man.
Thanks, brother. That's my pitch for everything I got right now.